Hi everyone, Mike here from Bikes by Mike with another cycling related video. So I'm back upstairs to talk to you about electronic group sets. I'll give you my review of Shimano's newest version of their top tier Dura-Ace group set, the 12-speed semi-wireless R9270. I'll talk to you about the improvements they've made to the drivetrain as well as the disc brakes. Okay, let's get to it. Just to be clear, I'm reviewing the R9270 series, not the power meter version, the R9200. As you'll hear in this review, I'm a huge fan of Shimano group sets, and especially their Dura-Ace lines, which I've been using almost exclusively on my road bikes for the past 15 years. But I'm not a fan of their R9200P power meter, having seen and read so many bad reviews on it, especially when there are so many quality power meters available today. If you are thinking about spending your money on the Shimano power meter, I suggest checking out the many independent reviews on that unit. DC Rainmaker describes all the problems he has encountered with it in his latest review. So instead of Shimano's power meter, I went with my preferred tried and true power meter, which is a Power to Max NGeco paired with rotor cranks. You can check out my installation video of that setup below. Power to Max is in my bad books these days because they've been dragging their heels on resolving a technical issue on their side. But for now, my early review of the product, which is very positive, stands. We'll see if they address my issue in the next few weeks. So today I'm reviewing the newest Shimano Dura-Ace DIT group set on my 2002 Cannondale Super 6 EVO High Mod 3, which I purchased earlier this year. I was hoping and waiting for a great deal on a Super 6 stocked with Dura-Ace, and luckily for me, one came along. After a quick unboxing, it was ready to roll. The Super 6 is a very lightweight bike, so to pair it with the new Shimano Dura-Ace group set and my Stealth custom light bicycle wheel build, it keeps the overall weight of the bike down to about 7.2 kilograms or 15.9 pounds. So not far off the UCI weight limit of 6.8 kilograms and 15 pounds. I'm not going to provide a detailed review of each and every feature of the Dura-Ace group set, as there are tons of excellent videos on that already. And I also won't show you how to use Shimano's Di2 eTube app, as I did a separate video on that. Check it out. But seeing that this is now the 4th generation of Shimano's top tier electronic group set I've owned, I really want to focus on where I can add some value here. And that is on how Shimano's new and first ever 12-speed group set compares to all previous Dura-Ace versions, and whether an upgrade from the previous 11-speed Dura-Ace 9170 is worth the investment. I ran Shimano's very first Dura-Ace Di2 group set, the R7900, on my semi-custom 2010 Parley Z3. My next road bike, a 2016 Specialized S-Work Tarmac, came with Shimano's R9150 Dura-Ace group set. And my 2020 Cannondale System 6 was stocked with Dura-Ace R9170. And now my latest road bike, the 2022 Cannondale Super 6 EVO, has Shimano's first 12-speed road group set, Dura-Ace R9270. Unlike some bike brands, Shimano is very well known for releasing new products and new technology only when it's gone through months and months of vigorous testing. For customers, this means that when Shimano releases something new, we can be sure that it will work pretty much flawlessly. Take their very first edition of Di2, the R7900. To this day, I can look back and say that that version worked almost flawlessly from day one. Battery life was great. As for shift quality, I'd maybe get at most one missed shift per year, and it never broke. But that wasn't by luck. Shimano had been testing it among the pro peloton for at least a year before they released it to the public. But in taking this approach, Shimano sometimes has received criticism for being slow to push out new technology, like going from 11-speed road to 12-speed years later than SRAM. And I get it, everyone wants new tech, like yesterday. But given how much bike components cost these days, what I really want is great new tech that is proven to work flawlessly before I drop my hard-earned cash on it. My criticism of many marketing-led designer brands like SRAM, maybe that's a little bit harsh, is that they prioritize bringing product to market over the quality of the product itself. That's just my opinion. If you think I'm totally off the mark here, let me know in the comments. So given the first generation of Shimano Di2 worked almost flawlessly, no one should expect night and day improvements to its latest Dura-Ace offering. But let's take a closer look at the newest 12-speed group set and see what improvements were made over the previous 11-speed version. I'll review each feature in more detail and then follow it up at the end with a side-by-side comparison of the two models. Number 1. Dura-Ace 9270 has gone wireless. Sort of. The previous 11-speed version had wired connections at the levers and the front and rear derailleurs to the battery. Dura-Ace 9270 still has wired connections from the battery to both the front and rear derailleurs, but has made the shifter connections wireless. This is a noticeable improvement as it makes the initial installation a whole lot easier, especially with internal cable routing at the front end. Having the derailleurs wired is not a bother at all, and whatever you lose in convenience, you gain in reliability by having a wired connection. Number 2. Improved shifting speed. Shifting speed has never been an issue with Di2, even going back to Gen 1. But Shimano claims that they have improved rear shifting speed by 58% and front shifts by 45%. I cannot verify those numbers, but no doubt that shifting absolutely feels faster now. And there's no degradation whatsoever in the smoothness of the shifting, which has always been there with Dura-Ace. Number 3, a new 12-speed cassette. This is often cited as the most significant improvement in the new version of Dura-Ace Di2. I never get as excited as some over what I see as marginal, at best, improvements you get from adding more cogs to the cassette. For those of you that like to run a broad range of gears at the rear, you'll be happy to hear that the new Dura-Ace has an 1134 tooth option, where the previous 11-speed generation only had up to 1130. But for me, where I continue to use an 1130 tooth cassette even in the mountains, the biggest advantage by far of having a wider gear range is that the step up in gears is smaller, making it a bit easier to find a comfortable gear to ride in. Most importantly, in the 1130 cassette version, there's now a single tooth increase in the 7 smallest cogs, which means you get the smallest gearing increases possible in the 15, 16, and 17 cog range, or what Shimano refers to as the sweet spot. Number 4, the addition of Hyperglide Plus, which Shimano first introduced for mountain bikes, is now present on Dura-Ace. It is a tech applied to both the chain and the cassette that facilitates faster shifting and shifting under load. You no longer have to think about soft pedaling while shifting, even when on the front chainring. And as I said previously, the shifting speed is noticeably faster. But beyond that, the shifting is so smooth and silent that you never hear that clunking gear shift sound you sometimes heard in the past. It's arguably the industry leader now in terms of the quality of shifts. Number 5, elimination of the junction box and D-fly unit. Shimano has done a lot to tidy up the design of the electronics. The previous 11-speed version had a junction box with a charging port, LED indicators, as well as separate Bluetooth connectivity dongle. All those extra bits are now neatly housed within the rear derailleur. Probably the best thing they did was making Bluetooth connectivity as a stock component and not a separate add-on device. A lot of riders, like me, were not too happy about having to buy a separate D-fly unit just to be able to use the Shimano eTube smartphone app to configure gearing. That issue has all but gone away. Number 6, smaller front derailleur. Shimano claims to have reduced the size of the front derailleur by 33% while maintaining the power shifts it has always had. It is quite a stealth design now. Number 7, improved braking performance. Shimano has done a few things to improve the feel and performance of its disc brakes. Pad clearance is increased by 10%, but somehow they have managed to provide quicker engagement of the brakes, followed by refined modulation. The new rotors are claimed to suffer 66% less thermal deformation and should also reduce brake rub. From a maintenance perspective, the caliper design has been improved so that you no longer have to remove the brake caliper off the bike to get a clean bleed, something that often had to be done with the previous versions. All of these improvements are noticeable on the bike. Quieter brakes, non-linear brake modulation, and super light one-finger braking are all noticeable improvements. Easily the best feeling brakes I've ever tried. Number 8, and the last change worth noting is the Dura-Ace dual control levers themselves. The brake hoods are slightly larger than the previous version and angled inwards to allow for a more aero setup. They're very comfortable for sure, but the previous version I found very comfortable as well. I noticed more of a change at the shifter lever end. Visually, the design looks identical to the previous version. The difference is in the feel. Making an up or down shift takes less of a tap on the lever, and the click you feel on a shift is less pronounced. I'm not sure if this was deliberately done to make faster shifts possible, but you can certainly fly through shifts awfully fast. It's taking me a bit of time to adjust to this, so I'm not certain if I like it more than the previous Dura-Ace shifters. I have a habit, maybe it's a bad habit, of sometimes resting my fingers on the levers. I find that with these super sensitive shifters, I sometimes actually make a shift accidentally. The first few times this happened, I thought my gears slipped, only to realize I had made the shift myself without knowing it. While I expect I'll adjust to this over time, for now I view this lever action as a slight step back from the previous version, as they're bordering on being too sensitive and lively. But I'm probably being a bit too harsh on Shimano, as I expect most riders who don't have the same bad habit I have will actually like the fact that levers require less push to activate. In any case, for me, this is the only feature that is not an improvement over the older 11-speed version of Dura-Ace. So, in summary, here's my side-by-side comparison of the new features of Dura-Ace R9270 compared to its predecessor, the 11-speed R9170. For the first 7 of the features I spoke about, the new Dura-Ace is an improvement over the previous 11-speed model. The only upgrade I rate as slightly worse to the previous version is to the new dual control levers. And while I'm only giving the R9170 Group O slightly better ratings than its predecessor, I'll restate my earlier comment that the very first generation of Shimano Dura-Ace was already nearly perfect. So 15 years later, there are only marginal improvements that can be made at this point. But like all things Dura-Ace, it comes with a big price tag of $5,399 Canadian for this non-power meter group set package. For that price, I'd say it's only worth upgrading your existing Shimano Group O for one of 2 reasons. One, if you simply want to upgrade from a lower tier or much older group set, or 2, your existing drivetrain cannot accommodate an 11-34 cassette and you simply can't get by without one. Otherwise, I'd say wait until your next bike purchase to go with this delightful new Shimano Dura-Ace 12-speed group set. Or look at Shimano's 12-speed 105 or Outtake group sets. So that's pretty much it for my review of Shimano's new 12-speed Dura-Ace R9270 group set. In my opinion, the very best road bike Group O available. That's all I got for today, folks. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you're not a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe, as it allows me to produce more content for all of you. See you next time. Happy rolling.